Wendy Capewell, a counsellor and psychotherapist. On a daily basis, I talk to people who feel they're the only ones struggling with the issues they share with me. So each of my guests have their story to share, whether it's about themselves or in their relationships, in the hope that you feel it's not just you. Today I'm talking to Eva Gruber. She is a habit coach and mental fitness expert. It's such a delight to speak to you, Eva. Please come and tell the audience all about yourself.
Good morning from my side here in Vienna. I'm Eva. I really want to support people, especially entrepreneurs, managers, and their teams, and among them, so many women, so many beautiful women, to really think about their behavior, their habits, and what their mind is telling them. So I support all of these people that have too much on their plate, and that constantly, in really getting a better, not just performance, but peak performance while you're stressed or doubtful or insecure. Also like to get healthier relationships with your loved ones, with your team, and also to feel happier overall in your body with yourself. That's, you might say, that's a big thing. The core, and I think the twist in my support for these people is that we really go to the core of our human being. One, our habits, like really trying to see what are the bad habits that actually hinder me, try to shift them into the good ones. And the second core is really your mind. We call it the mental self-sabotage that we do every day to ourselves by beating ourselves up, say like, that's not good enough, or again, you did it wrong. And really here, building this mental fitness, which is the capacity to take a challenge rather as an opportunity and to shift from the negative into the positive.
That's really great. And I so identify with those mental saboteurs. And that's what I really love to hear about from you today, because I know when we chatted before, that was something that really resounded with me, because we all have them. So tell us more.
Yeah, there's actually a beautiful concept which is called positive intelligence. And I love it because it's universal. Everybody has so-called mental saboteurs. We might not be aware of that. That's why they play with us. They kind of like tell us certain, let's say, lies, assumptions they have. And by that, they kind of justify their being. And there's 10 out of them. And the strongest one is the judge. The judge is the one everybody of us has, and that's the strongest one. And then it has so-called accomplice saboteurs. Like once the judge comes in, the others support him, right? Or her. Yeah. And just to give you a quick overview what the others are, it's like the controller. That's a person that rather wants to keep everything in its hand. The hyperachiever that is never, content with what happened and what is reached and is always looking for the next summit. The restless is the person that is, always looking ahead. What's the next best thing, or not missing out something? The stickler, I'm also like a strong stickler. I have a strong stickler in me too. It's rather a person that is rather perfectionist and wants everything to be in a certain way, believing that then this is all fine. It will be all fine. And then there's many among us, also like among us women, have the pleaser. The pleaser is strong with us because we want people to be fine, and by that also to be loved and to be cared for. And then there's the hypervigilant, which is a person that's rather worried and more fearful about stuff to happen. And then there's the avoider. We can I think like identify with that, like procrastination, not looking at things because they don't feel so pleasant and fine. And then there's two more, the victim and the hyperrational. The victim is really the person that feels, all this self-pity, again, everything happens to me. Why again, nobody loves me? And the hyperrational is really trying to argue and justify everything so much that all the emotion is missing out. There is no relationship building with others. You cannot even feel a hyperrational at times.
Goodness me, and I can identify with just about all of them at varying degrees, and depending on how I'm feeling at different times in my life. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I think they've all come to the forefront at times. I'm not going to say they all come in every single day, but
Yeah.
I can identify with quite a lot of them. And I think, I'm sure the people you work with, and definitely the ones I work with, they can identify with those too. And I
Yeah.
can identify them in them. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think how interesting. And is that how you work with clients?
Yeah, so like you can come with any, any topic. And what I do is say then, okay, let's break it down. What's the true why, the true intention you would have, not just getting coached by me, but for yourself to make a next step in something. And then what we do is we really look at what is the mindset that you have created to look at this right now in this way, and what are the behaviors, also like the habits you have created so far, or what are the missing routines or everything that you might need in your life to really, feel better in relationship, listen better to your body, listen better by that also to others, and by that also like react to all the negative emotions like stress, like doubt, like shame, like guilt, insecurity. All of that is still strong to us. But just because we have these mental saboteurs, this so-called mental self-sabotage, there's these inner voices that speak to us in such a strong way, and they disguise themselves that we just believe in them, right? And that's
Yeah.
the journey I take them on. And that's a very deep one, honestly. It can be very
Yes.
emotional, but
Yes.
it's going deep because it needs to be deep. It needs to go into your body too. So we also connect to your body a lot, and not just your mind, because we also talked about it before. We need this body, this mind-body connection. And so many
Yeah.
of us are really blocked here. We're blocked here. We're not just staying up here in our mind, buzzing here, different worries or whatever. We're not getting into our body and connect and feel,
Mm.
this feels good, this doesn't feel good. And why is that?
And I guess what I like to kind of offer here is that it's how we've learned to survive in the world.
Mhm.
And it's not always been a good survival instinct, because, as you say, if we have those protections, some people call them defenses, but they're
Yeah.
ways of being in the world. It's obviously allowed us to survive,
Yeah.
and therefore I guess that's what I want to. I suppose I wanted to offer that because I think sometimes people can feel really bad about the fact that they have these saboteurs, and yet
Yes.
actually got you this far in your life. They may
Yeah.
not be serving you as well,
Yeah.
but
They're not. Yeah.
let's not be too mean about them.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
so agree with that, because what I sometimes ask these clients then, what did you answer yourself when you were a kid and something didn't feel fine? Like you felt in a way not safe, not you were scared in some way. And then we had this question of how can I survive this? This is exactly what you said right now. And
Mm,
since then, since our childhood, we're building up this kind of like methods of surviving, right? And
yeah.
there comes the judge, there comes the controller, there comes the hyperachiever, this little kid in you that is still there, that tried
Mm,
to learn to survive, just learned mechanics that didn't actually help so much in the past, and it also will not help in the future. So it might help on the short-term basis. Of course, like being a hyperachiever or something, you for sure can reach certain, goals in some way.
mm, mm.
But hyperachievers are never happy in the end,
No,
you know?
no. So you were going to focus on a couple of them, weren't you? A couple of these saboteurs.
Yeah.
So tell us more.
Yeah. I would like to tell you more about my very strong mental saboteurs. You can assess that, and I always focus on one or two of them, because with that you can you build even mental muscles, brain muscles, how to cope with them much better, and by that be kinder to yourself, listen to yourself better.
Mm,
And I want to talk more about the judge and the pleaser in me. And The judge, actually, I was super, super surprised, even a bit shocked when I started my work on my own with this topic of mental saboteurs. I just found out half a year later that my judge is so strong that I really beat myself up. I push myself. I rather let myself be pulled, but rather be pushed. And that's, that's a mechanics that is actually pretty much hindering me in so many ways. It's hurting me, right? And when we look at the judge, and when I look at my judge, I have just 3 different ways. I judge myself, right?
Yeah.
I'm harsh on myself. I'm not giving myself the rest, the sleep, just the kindness. I'm not looking at the kid inside myself and just being kind to this beautiful being, right? And then I'm also judging others because maybe they're not that perfectionist as I am, or they're not just a pleaser as I am as well, right? And I might have good intentions in some way, but this is not sustainable. And it's like comes back to me in some way. And then I circumstances. I really, I look at what's happening around here, and that's not fair in some way, right? I'm a lot into fairness, and we need to treat each other fair. So like all of that was really strong to me, finding out how I really beat myself up. And I really want to use this word, and not physical, but emotional ways of beating yourself up. So that's my mental saboteurs I would love to talk more about.
Yes, and I identify with both of those very strongly. But I also think I found it interesting because I think the others climb on board with and join in with the judge and the pleaser.
Yeah.
But that's what I was noticing when you were talking. Yeah, but the others will join in. They all feed off each other, don't they?
Very much. Yeah. It's like a body system, right? Let's say I judge somebody else because this person is not delivering something. And please, I want to highlight that this was myself some years ago, and I'm still, by the way, I'm not black belt. Nobody of us will ever be black belt. It's just something we really have to train. It's like a body muscle that you want to train to feel better in your body. This is a mental muscle. It's really a brain muscle. It's 3 brain muscles we can train to respond to these, negative emotions, to these challenges in a different way, in a better way. So like back then I was judging others, let's say, because this person didn't deliver in a way I would deliver, right? I would do it this way, but that's my way. Then I judge the other, not by, shaming and, telling you didn't do it great enough, but, by just thinking about it and having an attitude, right? And then came in the stickler. I thought, yes, because this person didn't deliver this speech or whatever, or this PowerPoint or whatever it is in the perfect style, right? So they kind of like body up. And by that, they make these lies. They tell you, like, you need me as the judge, because otherwise other people take over, right? Or you need me as the stickler, because otherwise things will never be great, because they have to be perfect, right?
And then into that feeds the shame of not getting it right.
Yes.
The failure.
Yes. Yeah. And it, like shame and guilt, that's one of the strongest negative emotions we have that leads us to certain action. And in the end, all of, even especially the judge with the stickler, they take away my time, my focus, my energy, and in the end, my joy.
Yes.
And, in this very moment, I feel like, great, I sent the most perfect email ever, right? But in the end, what does it matter, how it really looks like, right? Like the style or whatever, right? And maybe one thing I want to pick up here is, before we maybe shift also to the pleaser, and you said it before, going back into the child's being and into the childhood. It's also shown by research, and everything I talk about here is based on research. So I'm not talking about any, made up concept. Everything that we have as a mental saboteur, we are not a pleaser, but we have a mental saboteur disguised as a pleaser in us. That's very important to us differentiate. Like, please don't name yourself, I am a pleaser, but you have a strong pleaser with you maybe at this time. And second of all, which is really, really interesting, all of these mental saboteurs, they shift over your years. They might get stronger, weaker, depending on your stage of life and depending on your roles in that. You might get older and by that hopefully wiser, and they might even get a bit less, training also your brain muscles. But what is really interesting is we can like mirror or we can like compensate our parents.
Yeah.
And maybe you can also refer to that, Wendy. But as I learned about this, I was really like, wow, I completely mirror my dad. He is such a kind person. I love him so much, and he loves the people so much. But he has a strong stickler in him and others that I also like have. So kind of like they showed me a certain way of living, and I, as a kid, observed it. Of course, I was very curious as a kid. Still I am, and I kind of like just observed and they kind of like mirrored their mental saboteurs to me. And the other is compensation. Like I strongly compensate my mom's mental saboteurs, and that's very interesting if you look at your parents, your closest loved ones.
There's something, I think that's really, yeah, I agree with you totally that's what we do, but there's the other side of it as well. I'd like to bring into it is that if we need to conform, we need to behave, we need to be loved as children, because the alternative is we will be abandoned and we can't survive in the world.
Yes.
So therefore we can't be authentic. We can't be our true selves in fear that we'll be abandoned.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest fears as a small child. We can't function in the world, can we?
Yeah.
You think of that child, how would they function on their own? So I think there was something about definitely, I mean, that pleaser in me, I recognized so much. And it came from my childhood. I didn't feel my parents loved me, and I would do absolutely anything to try and get their love and approval. But I failed at every single fence because I didn't know what it was they wanted from me.
Yeah.
That created such a dilemma in me.
And how does the pleaser show in you today? It's like, what's the most strongest, maybe even lies the pleaser tells you today, or the emotions it gives to you?
Well, I think what's interesting is that, yes, I had that strong pleaser in me for a very, very long time. She's much calmer these days. She's learned that the pleaser in me recognizes that people are going to like me or they're not going to like me, whatever. I can show my kindness and compassion towards people, but I don't have to bust a gut for people to like me or accept me or whatever. I've got my own strong morals within me, and therefore if I keep to those, and that means kindness and compassion to others, then however hard I try, it's going to be wasted energy, emotional and physical, as you were talking earlier, by trying to persuade people to like me or to be liked and to be accepted.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think I strongly believe that with growing older, and I'm just talking about everyone growing older because everybody is growing older day by day, we have a certain life experience and the wisdom we have to kind of like harvest, and we have to take the time as you do. And I learned this before, you take your time in the morning and you have a certain morning routine, and that actually like prepares you for the day. And I am sure you have these little epiphanies in these resting times, because this is something completely different concept, but we call it like an alpha time. And this is the times when we wake up and shortly the times before we go to sleep. And these are the times where our mind, our brain is so much more calm and rested. And there we really like let things appear, right? Unconsciously, things show up, experience suddenly makes sense, and you take out a learning, a true insight. And I think also the older we get day by day, hopefully the more of these, these momentums and these learnings we have.
Yeah, and it'll crop up now and again. I must say, it'll be that, because I don't think that ever is. It's almost inbuilt in us. It's hardwired.
Yeah.
However, I don't have to respond to it, and I think that's
Yeah.
the thing.
And
Oh, okay, she's turned up now, and I think we can give those saboteurs identities. I think sometimes it can be
yes.
quite useful, can't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
she's walked in now. Hold
So
on, what are
much.
you doing here? And I think it is that noticing it can be quite interesting, and maybe does it make us feel a little lighter, do you think?
Yes. So I completely agree with you again. You don't have to call them my pleaser. I call my stickler she who knows it all, right? And whenever she who knows it all just appears, they're like, hey, she who knows it all, I see you. And I make a bit of humor out of it. It's not sarcasm, right? It's humor. It's by, as you say, it's lightness that comes in. It's like just by naming it, and you don't have to even name the perfect saboteur. You just say, I feel something negative here. That's why I stop here and I try to shift, right? That's all you need to do at some point. It sounds much easier as it is. But as you said, make it lighter by also like bringing some fun into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do work with clients in a similar way. And what's interesting is I get them to have a meeting with their emotions, and it could be their saboteurs, um, it could be the more positive ones as well, the positive traits
Yeah.
within them. And one memorable, if I could share this, one memorable session I had with a client was, we have a meeting, okay, and he was into football. So let's have the meeting on a football match, on a football pitch. And so each of these traits, or some of them saboteurs, but these mental emotions, they were players. And he identified with it so much more because it made sense for him.
Yeah.
And I just think playing with it can be much more fun,
Yeah.
rather than, oh God, my pleaser's in here, or the judge is here, I've got to get rid of them. So
Yeah. So much.
So
And
we didn't talk, sorry, I'm interested because we heard where your judge comes in. What about more about your pleaser? Where did your pleaser show up?
well, my pleaser started when I was actually 6 years old, and it happened that my grandmother killed herself very, suddenly. We didn't, never really anyone expects that. And at this time, my mom, of course, she felt very, very, very sad and deeply, deeply sad and shocked and all that. And this, of course, stayed for a long time. And I just going into my own reflection and also therapy and all that, I just realized at this age, obviously, my mental saboteurs got so much stronger because this little Eva just thought, oh no, I need to pick up responsibility now. I need to really know it already without being told. I need to take care of my mom even more, because she is in need, she's sad, she feels bad, right? And this can happen to so many of us in a sense of something, I'm missing love, as you said, something like this happened. In my case, it was never missing love, but it was missing capacity of love and maybe attention due to grief and sadness. And, that's a completely different page in the book, right? And the pleaser in me started back then. And also, like in my family, we never had a fight, a conflict. We never had a big argument. We never got loud, right? So, like my pleasers, even I want to have a fair. You could even say it's sometimes diplomatic, setup, and everybody can say everything, but please in a nice and comfortable voice, and we're not getting angry at each other, because that's the way I got, maybe unconsciously, but very authentically educated as a kid by my parents and even by my grandparents. So I think you can look at your childhood and see, like, where did some of these mental saboteurs start with me potentially, right? We bring up assumptions here, but maybe that's a start for you to also look at your pleaser. And the pleaser per se is just looking for more love. He or she wants to be loved by the others, and by that gets recommended, gets seen, all that. It's a bit, sometimes you should not confuse it with the victim. The victim is actually thinking of self-pity as self-love, or like self-pity is the most dominant character instead of giving yourself self-love. And the pleaser is just looking outwards and saying like, I want to do so much good to others in order to get back, right?
Yeah. Gosh, they're a fascinating subject, and it's a lovely way of working with people and working for ourselves and getting to know ourselves better. So I love this.
Maybe one thing I just want to like briefly just share, because picking up your mental mind, right, and digging there into your thoughts, your emotions, going into your body and all that, that might feel at points a bit of draining or negative. It might sound like, wow, this is, as you say, like that's really deep work. But what I want to like highlight is just next to these 10 mental saboteurs, you have so-called sage powers. And the sage is the inner wisdom you have, that's the inner resource you have, that's the essence you really are. And that's actually a way you have born with or born as a person. And then I always say, like, think about a painting, and in the beginning the canvas was blank, you could say. Then you had some yellow, some other nice green, orange or something, and over time, with experiences, with negative emotions, with challenges, you had darker colors coming up on this canvas. And that's where the mental saboteurs can like build themselves up. But there's the so-called sage powers, which means there's powers you can build to, once you are in this negative emotion, you can get out of it with these powers. Like, for example, explore. What are the options here? Just get curious, really get really curious and just see what's out there, right? So like, I want to just also like bring some lightness in here to say like, it's not all just about getting into painful emotions. It's a lot about how to lift on the other end of the spectrum.
And I think that's important to mention, because I think people can feel it's too much. And again, I'm sure, like me, that you would take things very slowly and at your client's pace. This isn't just a one, this is right, we're going to do all of this today, and that
no,
it's really like an onion. You peel layer by layer. So
very much so.
So it's been really fascinating, and I'm sure we could talk a lot more about this, because I find it really interesting. I hope the listeners have too. What's one thing that you could suggest that people could take with them today?
Yeah, I love this question, and thanks for asking me. What I really want you listeners to take away is that if your body is in pain, you usually just use a crutch or you train your muscles to feel better, right? But if your mind is in pain, if you, for example, feel insecure or guilty or shameful, you kind of like miss out on building a mental muscle. And you can do that. And instead of, feeling this initial pain, like this shame or guilt or insecurity, we actually go even more deeper, and we just really like sink into this and suffer from that. So I don't want you to get stuck and suffer. I want you to learn that you can really like look at these negative emotions. You can learn to see them, can make them stop, and lift yourself out of it. And that can really help you to shift from a rather negative to a positive. And I want you to really like use all these actually negative emotions as you're sparring and say like, hey, you're stressed, I see you, I know how now to manage you, and learn to train your brain muscles. And then you can really use this crutch for your mind and also like for your new habits. And by that, really build better relationships with yourself and with others day by day, even get better at your performance, and luckily also like happier in the end.
Really good advice there. Really good advice. I'm going to put all your contact details for the listeners if they want to learn more about you. I'll put them in the show notes. But what's one easy way that people can get in touch with you, Eva?
It's email. Simply email me. You can email me to hi@evagruber.org. Will be in the show notes, as you said. that's the easiest way to reach out to me.
Okay, thank you so much for today. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else has too.
Thanks, Wendy, for giving me the opportunity to share this passion. And I hope your listeners have a good day and have a good journey with you.
I hope you found this episode interesting as well as helpful. Do get in touch if you would like to learn more about working with me. My email address is info@wendycapewell.co.uk. Take good care of yourself. Until next time.